Hello everyone and welcome to Sandra's Crafting Corner. If you would, please subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. Also like, comment, and share. I'm doing a few wedding decorations for my daughter's wedding and I thought I would bring you all along. So let's get started with DIY number 1. The items you'll need are any kind of measuring tape, this shelving board from Menards, here are the dimensions, some Cricut tools, as well as some contact paper for transfer tape and some vinyl of your choice. This baby's breath from Walmart, hydrangeas and roses from Dollar Tree, some floral wire also from Dollar Tree, these various tools, and this boxwood greenery garland from Hobby Lobby. Now on with the video. We're starting off here in Cricut Design Space. We wanted the word welcome to be in the cream candy font that we found from dafont.com. I'm using a program called Character Maps so I can get these cute little squiggles in the front and in the back of the word welcome. Our board was 36 inches long and we wanted it to go from the very edge to the very edge. However, as you can see, the Cricut Design Space does not like that. It can only go from 24 inches. So I'm going to have to split this word into 2 separate decals. So I take 2 squares and put it behind the word welcome. Next, I decide exactly where I want to cut it in half. Now this would work really well if I would have just remembered to weld the letters together first before I did this. Now let's try splicing that again. All I have to do is select the word as well as the rectangle together and then click Slice. You're going to do the same thing to the other side, making sure that the width of the rectangle is exactly the same as the other one. Once that's all lined up, you're going to do the same thing as the other one. Select the square and the word and slice. Now you can remove both sets of letters and get rid of those. On to the sentence to our beginning. We chose the Bodoni MT condensed font. Next, I increased the font size so that way it would be 23.5 inches long so I wouldn't have to slice it like I did the welcome. As you can see here, the word welcome is in 2 separate decals now. I cut off any extra vinyl that wasn't being used so that way I wouldn't waste anything, and then I weeded it. I did the same thing to the other side of the word welcome. I needed to cut the extra paper in front of the letter C so that way they would match up together. I'm going to cut a piece of contact paper that's long enough for the whole word. Here I am using a piece of packing tape on the back of both decals so that way they will stay in place when I put the contact paper on it. All I'm doing here is lining up the word to make sure it's on the very top of the sign. This was a long piece of contact paper, so I had to ask my daughter to help me out. I'm going to mark here on the underside where the center point of the word is, and also the center point of the board. Here I'm going to line it up and then measure to see if the W and the M are roughly in the same spot. Once I feel it is centered, I'm going to burnish it with my Cricut tool. And then simply remove the contact paper. I again needed help from my daughter to hold down the paper while I put the contact paper back on it. And now on to the sentence, to our beginning. I'm measuring here to find the center of the sentence. Now I'm just measuring to see if it's perfectly straight. Since it is, I'm going to burnish it and then peel off the contact paper. Since that's done, I can now work on the floral swag that's going to go on the top of the sign. All I'm doing here is cutting them with my wire cutters and then pushing the leaves up towards the bud. I'm going to continue doing that for all of the florals you see here. I measured the greenery garland and then cut it in half, that way the leaves would go in the opposite direction. Then I took this floral wire and wrapped it up in the middle so that way it wouldn't keep moving around. Please excuse my scrubby look. I was having a very bad pain week. I have fibromyalgia, so if I get a flare-up, it makes me feel really bad. I no longer need the sign there, so I'm going to move it out of my way. Now I'm just going to start laying in all the flowers. I decided I didn't want the leaves that came with the roses and the hydrangea, but believe me, I kept them. Once I got all the flowers where I wanted them, I started to hot glue them in place. I'll show you the finished result at the end of the video. On to DIY number 2. The items you'll need for this DIY are Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Spray Paint in Heirloom White, some floral foam, some jute twine, floral tape, floral wire, a quart-size mason jar, light blue vinyl, some baby's breath, the same florals as the last DIY, and these various tools. We're going to start off using this decal made with the Maddy font, but first we need to clean it with isopropyl alcohol. Once that's completely dry, we can apply the decal. I made one ahead of time, so I'm making sure that the decals line up. After that's complete, I'm going to take this floral foam and fit it into the jar. This is a labor of love right here. I cannot stand the feel of this foam in my fingers. After I chop it down and fit it into the hole, I'm going to take all of the remainder foam and put it in the jar as well. Now I'm going to cut all of these flowers the same way I did in the previous DIY. In order to do the baby's breath, it's going to be a little more difficult. When I tried to peel them off, sometimes the wire would come out. So I just took this floral tape and taped them back into place. Now I'm just going to trim the stems and arrange the flowers in the way that makes my eyes happy. When I get it exactly the way I want it, I'm going to take this twine and wrap it around numerous times. But first I'm going to take this lighter and burn all the little hairs off the twine. Now all I'm doing is tying it in a simple shoelace bow. And here is a close-up of the finished product. The last DIY, number 3. The items you'll need are Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Spray Paint in Heirloom White, some Cricut tools, as well as some contact paper for transfer tape and some vinyl of your choice, a 12-ounce mason drinking jar, and the lids from these quart mason jars. To start this DIY off, we're going to take this font Elephant and we're going to write the word bride. All I'm doing here is trimming the word so it's the right size. Next, I'm going to take a square and do exactly the same thing as I did in the first DIY. Just make the square the right size so you can turn it into a stencil. You move the square behind the word bride, select both of them, and then hit slice. Now remove the words. I went ahead and printed out all the words, but we're only going to work with one of them here. To make it a stencil, you're going to want to actually remove the word and get rid of that. Now I'm just going to take a piece of contact paper and put it over the whole word. To make sure these jars were drink safe, we went ahead and used the lids to cover up the drinking part. Now we're going to clean it with some isopropyl alcohol and make sure it's dry. Now we're going to apply the decal and make sure it's straight and centered. I'm just putting little slits here so it will go around the edge. Next, I'm going to burnish it and make sure it's exactly where I want it, and then make sure the stencil is pushed all the way down. I decided to use paint instead of vinyl, so I just mixed a little bit of blue inside the little tiny bit of white I had left. Now I'm going to take one of these foam daubers and get most of the paint off, and then dab, dab, dab. I will end up doing 2 coats before I take off the decal. Now I'm going to show you how we do the monogrammed initials for underneath their title. This is also where I got the O for all the centerpieces. What I'm doing here is simply putting them together so they look like one cohesive piece. Next, I'm going to make a stencil out of it using the same method I did before. I'm cutting around the top of the stencil so I can see where the word bride is. After I place it where I want it, I'm going to clip the bottom so it will go around the curved edge. Then I just burnish it down and remove the contact paper. Using my finger, I'm going to make sure that every part is pushed down so there will be no bleed through. Now I'm just going to dab, dab, dab like I did before. I will do 2 coats before removing the stencil. Now all that's left is to weed out all the little pieces, and then this project will be done. And here is a close-up of the finished product. Here are all the projects put together, with a little bit of the professional ones added in. Let me know what you think in the comments below, or simply just like it or share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring that bell so you can be notified of future videos. And as always, thank you and take care.